Hello, my name is Jiso, and I'm reading Master Dōgen's Shōbōgenzō. And we are at chapter 36, Komyo, brightness. Komyo means luminosity, light, or brightness. Such light has been revered in Buddhism since ancient times and has both a physical and a mental or spiritual side. Generally speaking, idealistic people believe in spiritual light, whereas materialistic people only believe in physical light. But according to Buddhist theory, brightness has both a physical side and a mental side. In this chapter, Master Dōgen explained this brightness. He explained that the universe is our own brightness, that the universe is just brightness, that our behavior in the universe is brightness, and that there is nothing other than brightness. And yes, there is an ironing board in the picture. Great Master Chosa Shoken of Konan, in the great kingdom of Sung, in formal preaching in the Dharma hall, preaches to the assembly. The whole universe in 10 directions is the eye of a Shramana. The whole universe in 10 directions is the everyday speech of a Shramana. The whole universe in 10 directions is the whole body of a Shramana. The whole universe in 10 directions is the brightness of the self. The whole universe in 10 directions exists within the brightness of the self. In the whole universe in 10 directions, there is no one who is not themselves. Learning in practice of the Buddha's truth must always be done in earnest. It should not be more and more distant, further and further removed. But the past masters who have learned brightness through such effort are rare. The Chinese emperor Komyo of the later Han dynasty, whose name during his reign was So, and whose posthumous name was Emperor Kenso, was the fourth son of Emperor Kobu. During the reign of Emperor Komyo, in the 10th year of the Eihei era, Kashyapa, Matanga, and Jiku Horon first introduced the Buddha's teaching into the Han kingdom. Before altars for the burning of sutras, they defeated a false group of Taoists and demonstrated the mythical power of the Buddhas. Thereafter, in the Futsu era, during the reign of Emperor Bu of the Liang dynasty, the first patriarch personally journeyed from India to Koshu district on the South China Sea. He was the rightful heir to the authentic transmission of the right Dharma eye treasury and the 28th generation Dharma descendant of Shakyamuni Buddha. At that time, he hung his traveling staff at Shorinji Temple of Shoshitsu-ho Peak in the Suzan Mountains. He authentically transmitted the Dharma to the second patriarch, Zen Master Taiso. This was the direct experience of the Buddhist Buddhist patriarch's brightness. Before this, no one had seen or heard of the brightness of the Buddhist patriarchs. How could any have known their own brightness? Even if they came across that brightness, fetching it via the brain, they did not learn it in experience with their own eyes. Therefore, they did not clarify whether the brightness is long or short, square or round, and they did not clarify whether the brightness is winding or unwinding, focusing in or radiating out. Because they hated to meet with the brightness became more and more distant and further removed from the brightness. This alienation, although it is itself brightness, is restricted by alienation. Alienation restricted by alienation means true alienation or undeniable alienation. Alienation here means not being ourselves. Thank you, footnotes. Stinking skin bags, who are more and more distant and further removed, hold the following views and opinions. The Buddha's light and the brightness of the self must be red, white, blue, and gold, like fire, like light from a fire or light from the water, like the light of a pearl or the light of a jewel, like the light of dragons and gods, like the light of the sun and moon." End quote. Although they sometimes follow good counselors and sometimes follow the sutras, when they hear the spoken teaching on brightness, they think that brightness might be like the light of a firefly. There is never learning in practice through the eyes and the brain. From the Han through the Sui, Tang, and Sung dynasties to the present, there have been very many such streams. Do not learn from the literary Dharma teachers, and do not listen to the outlandish explanations of Zen masters. The aforementioned brightness of the Buddhist patriarchs is the whole universe in 10 directions. It is the whole of Buddhas and the whole of patriarchs. It is the Buddhas alone together with Buddhas. It is the Buddha's state of brightness and the Buddha and the bright state of Buddha. Buddhist patriarchs see Buddhist patriarchs as the brightness. Practicing and experiencing this brightness, they become Buddha, sit as Buddha, and experience Buddha. For this reason, there is the expression that this light illuminates the 18,000 Buddha lands of the East. This is the light, in words, this light is the Buddha's light. Illumination of the East is the East's luminance. The East is beyond secular doctrines of this place and that place. It is the heart of the Dharma doctrine and the middle of a fist. Fist, it refers to the middle of a fist quite often, but it just says the East or the Eastern Quarter symbolizes a concrete and real place, not an abstraction. Even though the word East restricts the East, it is describing 8 pounds of brightness. 8 pounds. We should learn and experience the principle that the East exists in this land, the East exists in other lands, and the East exists in the East. As for the meaning of 18,000, a 10,000 is half a fist and is half of the mind here and now. It is not always a matter of 10 units of 1,000 or of myriad, hundred myriads, and so on. Buddha lands means the inside of the eyes. If, when we see and hear the words illuminating the East, we assume and learn that it is as if a line of white silk were extending to the East, that is not learning of the truth. The whole universe in 10 directions is nothing other than the East. The East is called the whole universe in 10 directions. On this basis, the whole universe in 10 directions exists, and the words by which it proclaims itself as the whole universe in 10 directions we hear as the sound of the 18,000 Buddha lands. The Tang Emperor Kenzō is the father of the 2 emperors Bokusō and Senzō, and the grandfather of the 3 emperors Kaisō, Bunsō, and Busō. At his devout request, the Buddha's relics are brought into the palace for the service of offerings, and in the night, the story goes, they radiate light. The emperor is overjoyed. Early next morning, all his retainers present letters of congratulation, saying, "It is the response of the sacred to His Majesty's sacred virtue." But there is one retainer, Kanyu Bunku. His pen name is Taishi, who in the past had studied in the back row of the orders of Buddhist patriarchs. Back row. Only Bunko fails to write the letter of congratulation. Emperor Kenzō asks him, "All my retainers have presented letters of congratulation. Why have you not written a letter of congratulation?" Bunko answers, "Your humble servant has seen it written in Buddhist texts that the Buddha's light is not blue, yellow, red, or white. The present light was just the light that is guarded by dragon gods." The emperor asks, "What is the Buddha's light?" Bunko does not answer. This Bunko Bunko. I quite like bunko. This bunko, though a layman, has the spirit of a stout fellow. His talent might be said to turn the heavens and spin the earth. Study like this is the starting point in learning the state of truth. Study which is not like this is not in the state of truth. Even if our lecturing on sutras causes heavenly flowers to fall, if we have not arrived at this truth, it is vain effort. Even if we are only a bodhisattva in the 10 sacred stages or the 3 clever stages, if we can retain the long tongue in the same mouth as bunko, that is establishment of the will and practice and experience. We can retain the long tongue. Long tongue is one of the 32 distinguishing marks of the Buddha. Figuratively, it symbolizes excellent ability in speaking, or as in this case, in not speaking. Nevertheless, can bunko, there is still something in the Buddhist texts that you have not seen or heard. Have you understood these words that the Buddha's light is not blue, yellow, red, or white? If you have the ability to understand, when you look at blue, yellow, red, and white, that they are not the Buddha's light, then further, when you look at the Buddha's light, you must never see it as blue, yellow, red, or white. If Emperor Kenzo were a Buddhist patriarch, he would pursue such a line of questioning. In summary, the brightness which is utterly clear is the 100 weeds. The 100 weeds is utterly clear of the 100 words. The 100 weeds symbolizes miscellaneous concrete things. That's right, we've had that before. The brightness of the 100 weeds is already their roots, stems, twigs, leaves, flowers, fruits, light, and colour. It is never something added on or taken away. There is the brightness of the 5 worlds: hell, hungry ghosts, animals, humans, and gods. And the brightness of the 6 worlds. Similar expression. Oh, sorry, it's the 5 worlds plus the world of angry demons, asuras. Perhaps this is just the place where the ineffable exists. The expression which explains light and explains brightness might be, how is it that mountains, rivers, and the earth suddenly appear? We must painstakingly learn in practice the words spoken by Chota that the whole universe in 10 directions is the brightness of the self. We must learn the self, which is brightness, as the whole universe in 10 directions. Living and dying, going and coming, are the coming and going and coming of the brightness. Transcendence of the common and transcendence of the sacred are the indigo and vermilion of the brightness. Becoming Buddha and becoming a patriarch are the black and gold of the brightness. Practice and experience are not non-existent. They are the brightness being tainted. Taintedness means separation. Master Nangaku Ijo described the practice and experience of Zazen as not to be tainted, that is, not to be separated into means and end. Yeah, we've had that before as well. Grass, trees, fences and walls, skin, flesh, bones and marrow, these are the red and white of brightness. Smoke, mist, water and stone, the way of birds, the hidden paths, these are the turning cycle of the brightness. To see and hear the brightness of the self is proof of having directly encountered Buddha. It is proof of having met Buddha. The whole universe in 10 directions is the concrete self, and the concrete self is the whole universe in 10 directions. There is no scope for evasion. If there is a place to escape, it is the vigorous road of getting the body out. The present 7 feet of skull and bones is just the form and the image of the whole universe in 10 directions. The whole universe in 10 directions that we practice and experience in Buddhism is the skull and bones, the physical body, the skin, flesh, bones and marrow. Great Master Daiji Kiyoshin of Unmonzan Mountain Okay. Is the 39th generation descendant of the world-honored Tathagata. He has succeeded to the Dharma of Great Master Shinkaku of Seppo. We've heard of him before, haven't we? Great Master Seppo. Though a junior in the Buddha's retinue, he is a hero in the order of the Patriarch. Who could say that on Unmonzan mountain no brilliant Buddha has ever manifested himself in the world? Once, in formal preaching in the Dharma hall, he preaches to the assembly, each human being totally possesses the brightness. When looked for, it is invisible, obscured in utter darkness. Just what is this brightness that is present in all people? The assembled monks made no reply. Unmon himself says in their place, the monks' hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, and the 3 gates. The present words of the great master, each human being totally possesses the brightness. Do not say that brightness will appear in future. Do not say that brightness was there in the past. And do not say that brightness is the realization of some onlooker. They assert that each human being naturally possesses the brightness. And we should clearly hear this and retain it. Unmon is bringing together 100,000 Unmons, letting them experience the same state and letting them speak with a common voice for one mouth, from one mouth. Each human being totally possesses the brightness. Unmon is not dragging these words out of himself. The brightness of each human being is gathering itself up and speaking. Each human being totally possesses the brightness. Means the whole of humanity naturally is the brightness. The brightness means each human being. The brightness gathers hold of the brightness and makes it into object and subject. It may be that the brightness totally possesses each human being. The brightness naturally is each human being. Each human being naturally possesses each human being. Each moment of brightness naturally possesses each moment of brightness. Each moment of existence totally possesses each moment of existence. And the existence of each moment of totality possesses each moment of totality. So remember, the brightness that each individual human being totally possesses is the realized individual human being, and is the individual human being that each individual state of brightness totally possesses. Now, let us ask Unmon, what do you mean by each human being? What do you mean by brightness? Unmon himself has said, just what is the brightness? Just what is this brightness? This question is brightness in which doubt kills comment. Nonetheless, when words are being spoken like this, each individual human being is an individual state of brightness. The monks in the assembly make no reply. Though they have 100,000 expressions of the truth, they speak by means of no reply. This state is the right Dharma eye treasury and the fine mind of nirvana, which are authentically transmitted by the Buddhist patriarchs. Unmon, putting himself in the place of the assembly, says, the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, and the 3 gates. The words expressed now, putting himself in the place, mean putting himself in Unmon's place, putting himself in the place of the assembly, putting himself in the place of the brightness, and putting himself in the place of the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, and the 3 gates. But what does Unmon mean by the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, and the 3 gates? We should not call the assembly and each human being in it the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, and the 3 gates. How many monks' halls, Buddha halls, kitchens, and 3 gates are there? Should we see them as Unmon? Should we see them as the 7 Buddhas? Should we see them as 4 lots of 7? 4 sevens, which is 28, suggests that the 28 patriarchs in India up to Master Bodhidharma. Okay, that's subtle. Should we see them as 2 lots of 3? 2, 3 suggests the 6 patriarchs in China up to Master Daikan Ino. Okay, thank you. Should we see them as a fist? Should we see them as nostrils? Though the aforementioned Monk's Hall, Buddha Hall, Kitchen and Three Gates are any Buddhist patriarch, they are not immune to each individual human being. Therefore, they are beyond each individual human being. Once they have become so, there are instances of there being Buddha halls without Buddhas, and there are states of being without Buddha in which there is no Buddha hall. There are Buddhas who have light. There are luminant Buddhas who are without. There is the light of Buddha in being without, and there is the light of Buddha which is existence. Great Master Shinkaku of Seppo preaches to the assembly, "In front of the Monk's Hall I have met you all." This is just the time when Seppo's whole body is the eye. It is the moment Seppo glimpses Seppo, and it is the Monk's Hall meeting the Monk's Hall. Referring to this, Hofuku asks Gakko, "Let us set aside for a while the front of the Monk's Hall. At what place are we to meet Boshu Te Pavilion or Useki Rei Peak?" Pavilion that surveys the province was one of the 23 beauty spots on Mount Seppo in Fuchu province, and therefore a symbol of an ideal place. And Useki Rei Peak, or Crow's Rock Peak, a gently sloping mountain located close to Fuchu city. Gaku runs back to the abbot's quarters. Hofuku goes straight into the monk's hall. The present returning to the abbot's quarters and going into the monk's hall are getting the body free as a comment, are the truth of the state of meeting each other, and are the monk's hall having met itself. Great Master Shinno of Jizo-in Temple says, "The cook is going into the kitchen hall." This comment is a matter before the 7 Buddhas. Shōbōgenzō Komyo preached to the assembly at Kannon Dori Kosho Horenji Temple in the 4th period of the 3rd watch of the night of the 2nd day of the 6th lunar month in the 3rd year of Ninji, 1242. At the time the rain of the wet season fell thick and heavy, drops dripping endlessly under the eaves. Just what is this brightness? The monks in the assembly could not help being pierced by Unmon's words. Okay. I hope you've been pierced by Unmon's words. Thanks for listening. Take care.